before we get onto the Salzburg game, I want to talk about N'Golo Kante, and Jorginho, the two of them, but more so N'Golo Kante, because there was reports earlier this week that he'd refused I think it was a 2.5 year deal. Might have got that wrong, so don't quote me.
It was 2+1, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So option to extend. So
yeah.
I don't really see how he can turn that down based on the fact he misses half the season, and when he goes on international duty, he comes back injured. And he's definitely still a world-class player. Let's have that right. First of all, he's definitely someone that we miss when he's not in the team 100%. But do you think? What I mean, I just can't see what is he holding out for? 3 years, 4 years?
Well, I think under the previous regime, under Roman, like they were very close to agreeing a 3+1. And like for me, I love Kante. He's been phenomenal for Chelsea since he's been here. But there's no denying that he can still perform to a very good level, as we saw in the run to the Champions League final, as we've seen in certain Premier League games. But fact of the matter is that I think he's the second highest paid player at Chelsea. And as important as he is to the team, you can't be a key player if you're missing so many games.
Yeah.
And his injury record, particularly over the last 2 seasons, like the guy can barely play 2 games in a row now without getting injured. So for me, if he's going to stay, it's like, he's not going to be able to have it on the terms that he wants, because his injury record and the amount of games that he's missing means that he's not really in the driving seat for these negotiations. He's going to, for me, I'd like Kante. I've got no problem with Kante staying, but it's got to be on the proviso that he reduces his wages drastically, and we're not going to be offering him a 3-year deal with an option for a 4th, because someone that's 31 with his injury record, you've potentially got him on the books till he's 35 on big money, and you're going to. And we've seen this in the past. Players on big money in their late 30s, and you can't get rid of them. So for me, I'm happy for him to stay, but it's a 2+1 deal, or even a 1+1, and reduce the money and try and improve your injury record, because he's not in a position now to be demanding big money still and wanting a relatively long-term contract for that age.
Yeah, because I think under Roman Abramovich, if you hit 30, it was normally it
was always just a 1 year rolling.
1 year with the option to extend for a year. If you think back to, I think, isn't that one of the reasons why Frank Lampard left as well? I can't remember.
It was mad. It used to be like John Terry. Once he hit 30, these were constant, just 1 year rolling deals. It was mad.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you 100%. I think Kante is definitely out of the two. I think you'd expect Jorginho or Kante to leave in the summer. I think the two won't be here because there hasn't been any contract talks that I'm aware of with Jorginho, unless it's just been, done behind closed doors. But you would expect one of the two to go. You look at the players that we've been linked with over the last transfer window. You'd expect a midfielder to come in the next summer window, at least maybe in January, if at a push, if we can. But I agree with you. I think it's such a weird thing from Kante. He doesn't seem like the type of player that would, cause a fuss or do an Antonio Rudiger and a Christensen and try and, haggle his way through a contract. He was everyone's got to look after themselves and be selfish, of course. But you just think, based on his injury records, does he need to give up his international career? Does he need to stop playing for France to try and keep himself fit and maybe get that additional year out of him and just keep himself fit a bit more? The role that he plays at the club, in that midfield, you're always going to pick up injuries because of the role that is expected of him to play and the manner that he has to play, the intensity of the game as well. But I love him as a player. He's definitely been, like I said, we miss him when we don't have him in the squad. But I just can't see the rationale behind having a player that's in the treatment room more than he is on the pitch. On a big deal like that. And like you said, Todd Bowley's had to, pay off the likes of Ross Barkley and those sort of players have had to just be paid up. I think he had 2 or 3 years left on his deal, and had to be paid off to get off the books. And we don't want to be in that position again. And I don't think the new owners will. I think they won't back down. They'd rather spend that money on bringing a player in and allowing Kante to leave on a free.
Yeah, to be honest, mate, I wouldn't completely rule out both of them leaving. I've seen things. I think it might have been in the Athletic possibly about Kante wanting a new challenge and the fact that he doesn't feel he's got as many close relationships within the squad as he has done in the past. I wouldn't be out of the two. Kante is definitely nailed on to more likely to stay than Jorginho is. I think it's almost certain that Jorginho is going to be moving on in the summer. I think that's kind of common knowledge, unless there's kind of a remarkable U-turn. But I wouldn't rule out both of them leaving either. I wouldn't be surprised at Kante's age if it's a sort of play you could see him going to PSG, something like that.
Nice season.
Go back to France,
payday.
play for a bit. But yeah, I mean, out of the two, I'd rather keep Kante. But for me, as I said, on different terms, and he needs to be managed better as well. Because as a manager, because he can be so good, you want to play him all the time. But Kante is not what he was a few years ago. I know it's so tempting to just chuck him in, and as fans like, why are we playing Kante? But you look back like last season and whatnot. You're looking at games at home against like lower level teams. No disrespect to them, games that we obviously drop points in. But like when you're playing against a Burnley at home, you don't need to play Kante and Jorginho.
Just one of the two.
Yeah, it's not necessary. So I think Kante, if he's going to stay, needs to be managed better. Doesn't need to be played every week. Just use him for the big games. But yeah, out of the two, he's more likely to stay. But I wouldn't rule out both of them leaving, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's the way forward. And this is why I think, going back to the Graham Potter part, I think this is why he's been brought in, because I think he potentially wouldn't mind losing both of them, because he potentially will have key players that he wants to bring in. You know, once we get director of football, I can see us really trying to hit the transfer window hard. I think in the summer, I know we've done that this window, 250 odd million, but I think we're going to try and do that in the next summer as well. And you know, there are some really good midfielders out there. You know, obviously not Zakaria, who can't get a game at the moment, but there are some good midfielders out there that could easily replace them. And I think, you know, from what Todd Bowley's been trying to do, he's trying to bring in youth players, you know, younger players that he can keep at the club for, you know, a duration of time and build from that way, as opposed to bringing in, you know, albeit Thiago Silva's been amazing, but rather than not bringing in someone who's at the end of their career, bringing in a youngster who's got the potential and the capability to get a lot better as well. So I agree with you. I wouldn't be annoyed to see both of them leave, because they've both been good players at times for us as well. But it is what it is. I think, you know, I don't think players have the option to hold the owner or the club at ransom anymore.
Yeah.
Almost what Christensen did to an extent, maybe Rudiger, if we were going to do, you know, Marcus, you know, those players that almost, you know, they've come to the end and they feel that they have the power. I don't think Todd Bowley cares. I'll really be honest. I don't think he cares about, you know, contracts and you know, players trying to get as much as they want from a selfish point of view. If he doesn't agree with what is on the table, he just won't allow the contract to be signed off. So, and I like that as well. I like that.